Howdy. Welcome back to One Rental at a Time. This evening for me, I was watching your daily financial news, which comes out every morning at 7:30, except for Thursdays, comes out at 7. So you can get on with Jonathan. And you were talking about Trump homes and the possible impact to that. And I know that the crash bows are going to jump on it with, here's the next reason to wait 6 months to take any action that will not happen in 6 months.
Right.
But I thought maybe we can have a back and forth on what we think the impact would be if this is implemented.
I really want to have this conversation because right now we do not know a lot. We've gotten some reports from CNBC, from Bloomberg. I've reached out to Lance Lambert from Resi Club to get some insights. And at this point, we don't even have acknowledgement from the man himself, Trump, that he is doing this. Right now, this is kind of behind the scenes. But the reason this caught my attention is because I was lucky enough to speak at Resi Day in New York City, the first one, which is about 15 months ago. And one of the things they asked all the speakers was, if you had to solve for affordable housing, what would you do? And essentially, I outlined what is now called Trump Homes. Is I would create a national program that would, reward, encourage, whatever you want to call it, the development of 1 million homes. So this Trump Homes, as it's currently outlined, Lennar talked about, Morrison talked about, these are home builders. It's got my attention because I have said for years now, you've heard me say this probably 100 times, we need something to like the GI Bill, where we just built lots of entry-level housing. And again, we don't have a lot of details, but we do have kind of the structure of what this might look like. And, it's no single silver bullet, but it's a big step forward, in my opinion. So I hope there's, fire where there's smoke. This could just be smoke and there's nothing. But I hope there's a fire and something like this comes out. It could be pretty exciting.
Well, sometimes it does take sweeping change like that. It was during the Great Depression, not 2008. That was the big crash. But the Great Depression, 1934, the Federal Housing Authority was created. The FHA loan was created, and it wasn't so first-time buyers could buy a home. It was to get construction workers back to work. We had 2 million constructors working.
Exactly.
Which doesn't sound like a lot in today's numbers, but at the time, that was a large
That's a lot. That's a lot that time, yeah.
And so it was people who bad credit, bad debt to income ratio, kind of could go and buy new homes so they could build new homes. So we need something that doesn't increase demand. So a first-time home buyer program where they go, hey, in California, as long as you are an illegal alien, here's $150,000 to buy a house. If you're in Washington State, as long as you're not white, here's $150,000 to buy a house. These are programs that feed demand, which cause prices to go up. What we need is something like Trump Homes, but here's the problem. How many states are so anti-Trump that if his name's on it, just to make sure he doesn't look like he was touching anything successful, they would fight him every step of the way? There are states where they sent out emails saying, hey, because of Trump's agenda, Section 8 won't be paying this month. And then they hold off till the 5th of the month, and then they send the payment. That's what happened in Washington 2 different times. So I think that kind of permit fighting can happen. And that's the challenge, is where we need the new homes is the blue states. The permit building process is already the strictest, the most delays, the most expensive. So builders are forced to build larger homes because the margin is there to handle the increased cost to get through the permit process. So if we do Trump Homes and we want to make entry-level houses, and it's easier to put them in red states, where are the builders going to do it? The areas where they're not needed as much. Like, look at Texas. We had, 50,000 units came online in Houston because of when rates went so low in 2021, they started a bunch of builds that finished around the end of 2025. They're having trouble now because rates have tripled since they started those projects. But the build system problems are so much less there that I think Trump Homes will hit localized markets. It will take years for this to go into effect, but I think it's going to create enough buzz. And I'm wondering that since Trump can't run for office again, would he be willing to take his name off of it, be a little more bipartisan, and say America Homes, or I don't know, something that Democrats wouldn't just hate because Trump was associated with it?
Well, you never know how these conversations are going to go. I think you're absolutely right. Anything that orange man touches is bad for some people. And that's just unfortunate. But at some point, you know, there'll be a first mover advantage, like all of this. Because again, we're talking about 1 million homes. 1 million homes are potential. And, you know, if in this example, the blue states don't want to play because it's got the orange man's name on it, it's just going to be more homes in other states. And again, at the end of the day, we're already seeing migration changes. We're already seeing these patterns. And if you want to see, you know, if you want to even see more of that, don't build in California or New York or Illinois and just let cheaper housing go elsewhere. You're just going to absorb, you know, more and more demand because prices will fall, right? It's just supply and demand. Your example of Houston is exactly right. But just think about it. If you unlocked, I mean, I can't even think, 1 million homes. I mean, how many? We talk about with Lance all the time, the 200 metros, the 200 largest metros. So if I'm doing my math correctly, that's like 50,000 homes a metro. And then if you take out the blue states or the blue cities, it's probably like 75,000. That's going to really move the needle. And, you know, we live in a world where there's more work from home and all of that. You're just going to cause your, you know, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're going to have no option because they can't buy in California. It's a freaking $1 million. They're just not, they don't have a choice. They're going to have to move. So, you know, I think you're right. If they did call it America Homes, I think that's a great name. And, you know, 1 million homes is going to go into the next presidency. So probably calling it something else would be a good spin. But yeah, it's the right idea. Again, I don't know if there's enough meat to really move it forward, but we need 1 million entry-level housing. So again, the fact that the name Trump causes some people to revolt is sad, just sad.
Well, that's why the memes do so well, or the short videos do so well when somebody reads a quote and says, how do you feel that Trump said this? And they get all upset and they say, well, actually, that was Kamala or Biden or Obama's policies.
Somebody else.
And you just see that it's related to him, not related to the policy. And the idea is right. We need to build entry-level homes. And so maybe this program could be good. One of the other constant arguments that I tend to get into is I think homes are cheaper today than they were in 2000. They're definitely cheaper than they were in 1981. And I can prove it. And every time I talk to people, mathematically, they're cheaper because we had, in 1981, we had 16% interest rate.
Yep.
We had almost half of mortgages at the beginning of 1980 were still 15-year mortgages. We didn't start doing 30-year mortgages until throughout the 80s when that started in the 70s, but became normal in the 80s.
Correct.
And home sizes were 1,400 square feet or less. Now they're 2,300 square feet or more. So the build of houses where cities have grown up, right? I bought in a little town called Yelm, Washington in the year 2000. It had one blinking red light.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have, it had a named grocery store, right? It didn't have like a Safeway or an Albertsons. It had like somebody's family name,
right?
Jayhawks or something. And yeah, I paid $100,000 for it. Well, and today it's worth $4 million, but now there's a Walmart, there's a movie theater, there's a bowling alley, there's a Safeway, there's like the whole city has grown up around it. So if you moved 45 minutes out, homes are still $100,000. Now interest rates are 7, not 16. Yeah. And the size is still bigger. So houses are cheaper now. If we had more entry level, 900,000 square foot houses built in areas where you maybe don't have a walkability score, like that's what people want. I want to be able to walk out to Starbucks in my super cheap house. That's not going to happen. On the coast, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if we have remote work being a factor and we get more entry level homes built in places like Hammond, Indiana, Gary adjacent, not quite as scary, better looking. Like if you look at Gary, you see Norman Bates looking stuff. And if you look at Hammond, it's more Norman Rockwell looking stuff. Oh, okay. And if we get more entry level built in that, I think you'll have a lot more people that will move. Not so much because of politics, but because of home prices.
Affordability. Yeah. This this is a good thing. Building 1 million homes. And I think you're absolutely right. Something that I hope comes out of this, and again, it's not in any of the proposals yet, but I hope it's right under the surface, is the average square foot of these homes is 1,350 or smaller. That was my request at Resi Day, is I would like to see the average square foot of a new build collapse. When I was in New York 15 months ago, the average was like 2,300 or 2,350. It's now 21. So it's going the right direction. But if we could deliver 1 million homes at 1,350 square feet or smaller, and dude, I own rentals built in the 50s that were 990 square feet. They rent all day long. They were great. We've just come to expect more. We need that fourth bedroom for our dog, and we need that, third car garage, and it's our standards have just gotten so out of whack, to your point about housing. And the other thing that I think is really unique about these Trump homes is it will actually drive rents down. I don't know that people really realize what would happen to rentals. Rental values, single family rentals and Class A apartments would collapse, would be deflationary. Why? Because the program is set up where you're going to rent these brand new homes, and you're going to take a sliver of that rent payment and save it as a down payment. And at the 3-year mark, you're going to convert to an owner. So who is going to qualify for this? The best tenants, the ones that want to be owners but can't get ahead. So you would see Class A rents collapse. You would likely see single family rentals collapse, because I have been here before. I knew what happened in 2006. I lost tenants because they were buying homes. It was the worst year to be a landlord, 2006. If we start delivering 1 million homes, I will lose my best tenants. Class A apartments would lose their best tenants, and you would see rents fall. Isn't that a good thing for affordability?
Kind of ironic that one of the best years to be a landlord was before I started buying properties, 2011, when everybody was going through foreclosures and had to be rentals, and rents were spiking.
2011 was awesome. 2006, not so much.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's going to be a little bit localized as far as the rent drops, where they do the major builds. I think there'll be some cities that fight it, some cities that welcome it and want the builds.
Yeah, the builds don't come, of course. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Knowing your local market's going to really matter. And then I'm going to give some ammunition to use when people hear the Crash Bros talk, using the law, the rule of small numbers. They're going to say, we have about $4 million transactions in a year. Normally we have 6, but the last few years we've had 4 because rates spiked so much. Fear is so high. And so if we add 1 million homes to the market, that's a 25% increase, right?
Sure
That's
is.
a massive, it's got to cause a crash. Okay, well, that's on how many homes are for sale. How many homes are there? We're talking less than 1% of homes added to the housing thing. And then these are only entry-level homes.
Correct.
So of those 4,000 that are for sale, a lot of those are the people waiting for the move-up buyer, but the move-up buyer's not there because they're rate trapped. They've got such a low rate, they can't leave their smaller house to move. So while this could impact things, I think what it's going to do is it's going to reduce the number of people that are living with their parents from the age of 20 to 30.
Correct.
It's going to reduce the number of people that have 3 or 4 roommates to make things work. So it's going to do these things before, while rents can soften in some areas, and I think probably go down in some areas. That's absolutely possible. As many times as I quote this fact. So I quote this fact often. Since 1940, when we started tracking the data, rents have never once market-wide gone down and stayed down over a 5-year period. That doesn't mean Silicon Valley didn't crash 70% or Detroit didn't crash 70% when the manufacturing of cars went away or the dot-com bubble crash happened. Local markets do not do what the market does because there is no one market. But when we look at overall trends, and the Crash Bros are saying, hey, it doesn't matter where you live. Here's a reason for you to wait a year. Trump homes are going to crash the market. You'll be able to buy one of his homes or one of the other ones that all of a sudden comes down. That's not going to happen.
I couldn't agree more. And again, the other things that we fail to realize is Crash Bros will tell you stupid things like this will cause the crash in Q4 of 2026. Folks, we won't even break ground on developing these homes until probably 2027. And they will take, you know how long it takes to build 1 million homes? It'll probably take 4 to 8 years. So let's not get it twisted. This will not affect home prices in 26 or 27 or 28. And then don't forget, once they're developed, there's a 3-year lag from renting to owning. So add that on top of this, and we get to 2030 really, really quickly. Dion, again, I want to see a nationwide affordability homes delivered, 1,350 square feet or smaller. I think it would. The other thing, here's another thing. Do you know what would happen to our labor market if we unlocked home development? Because it is severely constrained today. Builders are pulling back. If we really had Lennar and Taylor Morrison and other builders get on this build 1 million homes, we would have wage inflation. Uneducated economist Simon is talking about mills shutting down. They'd have to get fired back up because lumber would be like, we would have some inflation as well. That would happen first.
No, I think you've made me think of a new time measuring metric, right? People say this will happen in Q4 of 2026, and we won't even break ground by then. I think instead of thinking of how long this would take, 4 to 8 years to get 1 million homes built under a new program where some politicians are going to fight it because of the name that might be attached to it. But I think let's use Malibu Rebuild as the time measuring matric.
What do they built? 10 homes in a year or something? Crazy.
None completed.
None are, so 10 are broke ground.
Right. So the amount of time that real estate moves is one of the reasons why it's such a perfect asset for people like me. Because I'm the person that would go, I got divorced. Let me pull my retirement account out and survive. I own some stocks. They've gone up or they've come down. I'm going to panic sell. If real estate prices come down, I don't panic sell. I sit there and wait to see what happens with rents, because that's going to make the rents go up because more people are demanding rentals if they're not buying. Like it's inelastic is one of the words I steal from you, but it takes time for things to happen. So not only do the crash pros keep getting their timing right, they keep marching to the same drum to where eventually there will be a crash. We can guarantee at some point, if we don't put a timeline on it, there will be a crash in the future. And all of them will stand up and say, I predicted it. And ignoring the 990 other times that they predicted ones that didn't happen.
Well, Dion, you're amazing. Coming out to the Vegas event in a couple of weeks, flying all the way from Thailand. I was going to say Taiwan. Yeah. Thailand, all the way to Vegas via Bangkok. So we will see you in just under a week and a half. Where can they find you?
I'm looking forward to it. When we're in Vegas, they could find me on the strip at Denny's at midnight, Wednesday and Thursday night. We have the midnight Denny's meetups. If you're in the school community, the one rental at a time school community, not only can you stream the event on the 14th and 15th, but you get the link to where the Denny's is that we're going to be at.
Nice.
When I'm not there, you can find me here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I do a live stream every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
Ciao.